I don't use this word very much, but I think the Seeaudio Mappo Tofu is the only IEM where I can describe the mid-range as being sweet. Quick reminder, we now have a Discord channel called The Hideout. Join for behind-the-scenes tidbits, get buying recommendations from yours truly, and, just hang out. Scan the QR code on the screen or use the invite link in the description to join. Alright, back to the video. So back in December, I was quite impressed with the artist's signature version of the Seeaudio Hakuya, which combined a mid-forward kind of tuning with decent but not class-leading technicalities to create an incredibly refined presentation. Sadly, the thing's free grand price tag means that I'll probably never be able to get it. Fortunately, Seeaudio ported this kind of tuning down to a less costly product with an IEM called the Mappo Tofu, which means Mappo Tofu or spicy tofu. Yes, it's named after a dish. Supposedly this IEM is Japan only, although there are some Taobao listings of it too, but without further ado, let's get into why I like this little red IEM right here. So for the outer box, you get the very spicy Chun-Li style waifu art from Seeaudio. Her name is Rinko, I think. To the side is going to be a description of the Mappo Tofu dish itself. In the back here, you've got these really hard to read graphs. Like, what is this tri-frequency distribution? What's this red-blue thingy? I don't know. Inside the black inner box, you get an envelope containing a product pamphlet. Just includes a bit of info about the Mappo Tofu and some other products of the Seeaudio brand, a warranty card with signatures from the Seeaudio staff, 2 pairs of replacement filters, and free merch items, including a contact card, a holographic waifu card. Unfortunately, it's made from paper, not plastic, and a pack of stickers. Down in the box, we get a cylindrical metal case. It looks kind of generic, but actually very useful compared to just a pouch. Inside the case here contains more merch with a cartoony tofu and chili themed keychain. So these are the mascots for the IEMs. On the IEM side, you get a foam insert containing 3 sizes of Asla Celastex 2.0 ear tips and some generic foam tips. I guess it's up to you if you count this big desiccant pack as an accessory or not. So we've got the Seeaudio Mappo Tofu's cable right here, and honestly it looks really bad with a sort of gray and yellowish color. As you can see, like on the one side it is gray, on the other side it's kind of yellowish, and it just kind of looks like one side of it is stained up with like all the sweat and everything, and the other side, which is gray, is just waiting its turn to become yellowed. I'm not a fan of fabric cables overall as well, because they're kind of chintzy, and if you sweat a lot it'll kind of soak into the wires. So this cable is a turn off for me. What this cable has going for it is a interchangeable swappable jack system that is pretty low profile. It doesn't jut out a lot, and it gives you all 3, the 3.5mm, 2.5 and 4.4mm options. Very nice. Doesn't exactly redeem the horrible looks of this thing, but well, it's something. Fortunately, the Mappo Tofu itself is quite the looker of an IEM, with a well-crafted red resin shell and glittery red faceplates with gold accents, as you can see, in the shape of the tofu and chili mascot that is from the keychain before. Now, if this IEM shell design looks familiar to you, that's because it is, as the Mappo Tofu here is, well, it's basically the Seeaudio Bravery 2024 edition, which itself is one of the many color variants of the Bravery Special Edition, with a different coat of paint and a retune, of course. So for source matching, because of its pretty distinct tuning, whatever you plug the Seeaudio Mappo Tofu into will still have that warm sound presentation. Output power wise, it's a very easily driven 4-mast armature set, and it gets loud out of whatever source you're going to plug it into. As for ear tips, Whilst the ASLA Celestex 2.0 that are included with the Mappo Tofu are pretty good, for personal use, I'm gonna be opting for these Core Air aluminum alloy ear tips. So they're basically TPE ear tips like the Software ECUC or the Celestex, but they have a little black piece of aluminum alloy inside here, which creates like a kind of a resonance. But essentially what it does is it gives a slight treble boost, and I find that it pairs well with the warmth of the Mappo Tofu. However, because it does change the sound quite a bit, for the purpose of testing, I'm going to be using the Tang Sankai ear tips on the Mappo Tofu. It doesn't modify the sound as much as the Core Air tips that I have. But with all that out of the way, let's get to the sound of the Seeaudio Mappo Tofu. Now, the reason why I'm so infatuated with the Mappo Tofu is that in a market full of neutral or Harman tune sets, this Mappo Tofu here, it employs a warm and quite rare A-shaped tuning, particularly with a healthy lower mid-range boost, along with Seaudio's usual tuning excellence, just creating a lovely sound for vocal focused and lighter music genres. So starting with the bass, the low end of the Mappo Tofu is very much set dressing for the other frequency ranges. It has a slight mid-bass bias with, I'd say, sufficient impact and oomph for lighter music, but the nose bass bounced armature, it just isn't able to dig down as deep as a comparable dynamic driver. And it can impart a slightly sort of hollow slam factor to the low end. If you're buying the Mappo Tofu for the bass performance though, I think you're doing something wrong. So, not good bass for this one. The mid-range of the Mappo Tofu shines in a way that I've rarely heard in other IEMs. Like, it just portrays warmth without being muddy or sacrificing a lot of separation. To my ears, the Mappo Tofu's lower mid-range is pretty substantially boosted compared to, well, pretty much everything in the market right now. You're getting a lot of energy in the 250 to 500 hertz range, and it gives all of your music a sort of beautiful, expressive warmth character that is just lovely. For example, I've been listening to Narissa's Ravencroft, she's a VTuber. Basically, she covers some music, and the covers are stellar on the Mappo Tofu. And so does music from Suisei, music from J-pop, R&B, bubble bass, stuff with pianos and violins. Like, they all work really well on the Mappo Tofu. Despite this, the upper mid-range is still present, and it gives both male and female vocals a healthy space to stand forth in the mix, showing that Seaudio's tuning engineers are no less talented than those from like Moondrop and Tangijim. For heavier genres like dubstep, rhythm, that kind of stuff, the Mappo Tofu is not so suited, and it can make those mixes sound a little hollow and bloated. Stick to lighter music though, and I think you will be in for an absolute treat. I don't use this word much, but I think this is the only IEM where I can say its mid-range sounds sweet. The treble of the Mappo Tofu is well controlled, also kind of playing second fiddle to the dominant mid-range, but enhances it by reintroducing some clarity and with adequate treble detail to balance out all the warmth. Needless to say, the well-tuned highs present no weird sibilance and provide an overall airy feel despite the warm, intimate sound. And as said before, you can augment the treble clarity by using the Core Air aluminum alloy tips, which shifts the Mappo Tofu from a warm to a warm bright kind of sound signature, with no significant impact to the low-end performance. The overall stage width of the Mappo Tofu is fortunately pretty open, considering the intimate sound style However, the vertical staging is less impressive, making for just average imaging abilities. Technical ability is probably the biggest weakness of the Mappo Tofu, as it is based on the already ailing Bravery IEM, which itself was nothing impressive when it came out. Micro detail retrieval remained solid, but the macro detailing has been outclassed by competitor products at the same price, and sometimes even products that are at a lower price, such as the Kiwi Ears Quintet, which kind of edges out, or at least it matches in terms of the macro detail retrieval. Going to our comparisons, whilst they're both at about the same $350 range, the Dita Project M and the Seeaudio Mappo Tofu couldn't be more different. The Project M, it goes for a transparent design with sort of a hybrid configuration with a DD and a BA in there, whilst the Mappo Tofu sports a more common 4 balanced armature build with a red shell, although I have to say both look gorgeous in their own little way. But Project M, it edges out a little on the unboxing experience because of the more unique accessories such as the Thanos case, the glow-in-the-dark final ear tips. Now sound-wise, we again see polar opposite signatures catering to different crowds, different tastes. But Project M is a more V-shaped presentation with really strong, thumpy bass that makes for a thunderous time in electronic music, with especially the boomy, vast-sounding Hollywood OSTs. That's where the Project M performs best. Whereas the Mappo Tofu is a much more mid-range focus. It's warmer sounding. It portrays vocals more intimately. For technicalities though, it's not even a competition. The Project M has better macro detail separation and imaging just bar none, with matching and at times edging out with the micro detail retrieval, and its dynamic driver bass on the Project M, it is just much better. It grows down to the lower registers and rumbles much better than the Mappo Tofu's balanced armature, with more bass detail. Nevertheless, when I want that boomy, cinematic Hollywood OST feeling, I will reach for the Project M. But if I want some light music, I want to chill out with romantic vocal performances, it's the Mappo Tofu that I go to. Making these IEMs complement each other pretty nicely actually. We've got another $300 set, which is the Dunu Davinci. It's also been up on everyone's radar recently. Now compared to the Mappo Tofu, whilst I personally prefer how the Seeaudio IEM looks, I think Dunu did a pretty good job with the build quality as well. The sound shows another contrasting picture, although it's not as stark as the Project M comparison. But bass on the Davinci is thick, it's lush. Sometimes it goes a bit overboard and kind of overshadows the other frequency ranges, which compared to the Mappo Tofu, it's comparatively pretty tame. Mid-range on the Davinci is more fun, it's got a bit more bite to it, and although it is fairly warm, it is not as refined or as emotional as the Mappo Tofu. Treble on the Davinci is decently extended, adding a little bit of clarity to an otherwise somewhat blunted sound, whilst the Mappo Tofu is, well, it's more focused on the lower treble registers, and then it falls off to give way to its alluring mid-range. Again, at a slightly cheaper price, the Davinci is the macro detailing of it just completely outpaces the Mappo Tofu. Though in micro details, I think the Seeaudio IEM puts up a good fight. I think the safer choice will remain the Dunu Davinci, being a solid all-rounder, I guess. But with anything J-pop or lighter vocal music, want a more niche set, I think the Mappo Tofu really does come into its own. In a market filled with sets aiming for like a neutral or a Harman-inspired sound signature, the Seeaudio Mappo Tofu is a refreshing break from the norm, and it's a delight for lighter genres and vocal-focused music. From my first time listening to these tofus, I was hooked by its distinct, even contrarian A-shaped tuning that has a healthy boost on the often neglected lower mid-range. The beautiful shell and the waifu merchandise, it's all just really good icing on the cake. Yes, it is essentially a souped up Bravery special edition retune with weak technical ability compared to the competitors, and it's got a tuning that's not made for electronic genres, but much like the dish itself, the Mappo Tofu may not win all hearts, but for those that it does, you'll be in for a good time.